the most happening IT conference where IT pros and tech vendors converge for 2 days of everything tech. Spiceworld is put on by Spiceworks, used by millions of IT pros and thousands of tech vendors to connect with each other and get their jobs done.
Nicole Tanzillo, for those of you guys who weren't in the first session, and we are in our second round of the official MSP track at Spiceworld. How was lunch, guys? Good? Yeah? Doing all right? Everybody's, are you dragging a little bit? That's cool. When we've been at past Spiceworlds, we've had conversations about how to differentiate yourself as a service provider. With similar service offerings, different types of things that you're doing, it can be hard to stand out and get clients and keep those clients without some know-how. And so we've actually brought together 4 different folks who are going to speak to you today. 3 of them are fellow IT service providers, and then one of them is actually a marketing expert, and he's come in from a marketing firm here in Austin to give some insight from kind of the other side of the fence as well. So first up, we're going to have John Nicholson, who's with Synchronet. We're going to have him talking a little bit about differentiating your business. And then we're going to get into Jim Kubicek, who's going to talk about turning your kind of project-based customers, that one-off type of interaction, into more long-term contract-based customers, which is great. Great way to build the stability into your business. AJ is going to talk about customer service for us. He's just about to make a move down to Dallas, right, AJ? That's awesome. And then we've got Charlie Brown, who is going to be talking to us from Mixtape Marketing, and he is on the kind of online marketing branding front, has some really great expertise there to give you guys that insight into maybe some additional things that you can do from a marketing perspective. So this is formatted just a little bit differently than last time. I'm going to give each of these guys 12 minutes on the clock. So it's a lightning round session. They can talk for the whole time. Hopefully they'll actually give you about a couple of minutes to ask some questions. And at the end, we'll have a few more minutes to ask questions, pick their brains, that kind of stuff. So it's 4 mini rounds for you guys this afternoon. Any questions before we get started? Okay, well, let's just do it then. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to John, and he's going to get going.
Okay, let's see how fast I can talk. Let's kick this off. My name is John Nicholson. I work for Synchronet. We're a managed service provider and professional service provider. We primarily work in the small, medium enterprise space and enterprise space, although we do some SLED also. I was going to say one of the first trends we've seen in the MSP space, I'm sure you guys have seen, is a commoditization of IT service, and it's not only just a commoditization of IT. People are, buying iPhones and bringing that instead of BlackBerries, but also, there's kind of people are viewing IT service often as a general commodity. You've got guys who kind of often are barely fit for, solving an iPhone problem that are now trying to creep into the business IT space. By the way, these guys, I think, charge like $120 an hour on site. So please, I know that in some ways MSP almost is viewed as a race to the bottom, but if these guys can charge it, I encourage people to try to stand firm and make some money here. Another of the major challenges, is not just the commoditization, but also we're seeing a clone of kind of the same business model. Like, let's get a bunch of kids for 10 to 15 bucks an hour, and let's send them out in these funny little cars, and let's just, have them just kind of churn away on site on desktop issues. Is anyone have one of these cars? Anybody? Okay, good. This is actually, I needed a picture for this, and I actually went downstairs to our parking garage, and I was like, there's bound to be an MSP somewhere in our building. So, I know some of you are in the smaller markets, but for those of us, we're based out of Houston. I mean, you can throw a rock and hit one of these cars. And kind of what we're seeing is they're not really competing on service levels. They're not competing on skills. They're competing on, hey, we'll do it for, it's like a game show. It's, everyone else is doing $100 per user per month. We're going to do 90. We're going to do 80. And it's just kind of a race to the bottom. And that's a trend that comes from the commoditization, that comes from if these guys aren't standing out, if they're just trying to do this more efficiently, they're trying to find kids to do this stuff for cheaper. They're trying to, find ways to provide kind of weaker service levels, maybe over-deliver at the beginning of a customer involvement, and then slowly just kind of taper off, and all those updates and all those things you promised, just not deliver them. So that's kind of one thing that we're seeing is, pushing in the space. And while, I've been going to Spiceworld, I guess now for 3 years, and talking to other MSPs and other MSP owners. And they're kind of, there was a long run there where, the MSP space was kind of the same thing. Everyone had an SBS server, you went out, you serviced it. And we're starting to see some large-scale changes. We're starting to see pushes and trends, cloud and other things coming in. And really what the clones are doing is they're just trying to squeeze efficiency and squeeze it down better. And that works for some. It's a business model, but it's generally one done at scale. And talking about scale, I wanted to talk about the other people that are kind of pushing into the managed service realm. You'd be really surprised when you actually start going out and talking to people. Various elements of all of these companies, your printer companies, even telcos, and VARs are getting into the services game. They're entering this world, either in hosting. Zenith, I thought they made TVs, but apparently they've got an MSP wing going now. And the deal is, if it's just going to be about a race of who can clone, who can be more efficient, who can hire a bunch of low-wage workers, and potentially farm some of the remote stuff out. If that's what you're competing on, these guys can do it at scale. And I mean, maybe you can too, but if your differentiation point, I guess this is the beginning of this is just defining the clones. If it's not based on something beyond that can't just be replicated at scale, you're going to have problems. You're going to struggle, and eventually you're going to have customers start bleeding out because these guys will be able to either be cheaper, they're going to have more resources to be able to bear, or you're going to struggle. So, after all this fear and doom and gloom of defining the problem, I have to say, how do we stand out? Obviously, there's multiple realms to do this. I've seen some other people in the community take great strides in picking verticals, understanding maybe legal and understanding all the weird applications or medical. That's something the big guys aren't going to do. But for us, when we arrived at this discussion 3 years ago, we looked at our customer base and we were scattered across every vertical. We had nothing we could cling to do that. So what we did is we decided to double down on education, double down on our staff and our salaries, and push into higher tech involvements. Virtualization, pushing into cutting edge technology, pushing into enterprise storage, pushing into professional services. We've shifted to where really our managed service is something that follows up from us doing high-end implementation. I'd say probably 70% of our business now is implementation labor. And the MSP is more something that's designed to keep the lights on as a follow-through. Partnerships is something I want to hit on. You're going to be hit up by every vendor on the planet, and I'm sure a bunch of great lovely ones here to partner with you. This is something we did 3 years ago, and everyone was saying, "Hey, come partner with us. We'll give you all these magical leads. We'll do all this great business together." And really, what they want is they just want your customer list. There's a handful of companies out there that they really will work with you, and you'll have a two-way agreement. But both of you have to benefit. At this point, our best partners, the best thing I can say about 3/4 of them is they don't steal our leads and they provide good support information when we need it. I've got one vendor that actually brings us legitimate deals, and that took 3 years. Me personally having to fly multiple places to get certifications and just a lot of engagement. Focus on fewer partners but deeper, better partners. Trying to partner with everyone, that was really something that we learned. Just it didn't play out. The next thing is solve business problems. When you're going through, try to make sure that instead of just finding a technology that you find cool and do that, talk to your customers, understand their businesses. Learn that Exchange 2013 is a great product. It does some cool things with mobile. Does it really solve any new problems for a customer? Maybe, maybe not. If they're having a problem with mobile access or with security or something, find what their pain point is and sell to that. And from that, you can do a lot more professional services. Because if you just come to your customers and you're just doing that, hey, here's our new products that we know, and you're doing that song and dance number, and you're not actually talking to the decision maker about problems, you're not going to have really that great of a close rate, and it's going to be harder to get into the professional services, which can be a lot more lucrative. Lastly, cost does not equal price on this slide. When people are saying, we can get someone else for $20 cheaper, or we can do this, there's kind of a movement to drive, especially in the MSP world, drive that down to the bottom. If you're playing into that and if you're taking on those customers, you're going to end up with high-need, low-income customers. And they cause the death spiral more than anything, because you end up with a handful of customers that they might even bring a lot of revenue, but you're not making a lot of profit and you end up in this kind of dependency relationship where you need them to make your bottom line and make payroll, but you're spending all these resources to where you're not serving your other customers properly. We probably, in the past 3 years, have, on our small business side, gotten rid of about, I'd say 75% of our customers, just by raising rates and cutting out customers that were putting a high need draw. A couple ways that we've stayed ahead is, like I said, we focused on technology. So, and part of it is understanding the commodity curve and seeing things like voice, moving on to Link and newer, more complicated solutions, not just virtualization, but high-end storage and virtual desktops, moving to the cloud, and not just doing backups, but doing the full BCDR in the data center handling of that. So there's different ways out of the kind of the clone army, but that was kind of our path. So any questions?
Oh, yeah, you got a question? Yeah.
I did have a question. You mentioned that some of the small businesses that you were servicing, were you actually eliminating some of those because the return on investment in those businesses wasn't high?
Yeah, we actually run full P&L reports. We use Autotask, and so I can do drill down reports and look at like those managed service contracts versus the hours versus the labor. And so that's a huge thing, is having some type of platform. Autotask, it's kind of a monster, but it gives us the ability for our finance people to do that. And it wasn't necessarily that we fired them outright. It's just we said, hey, in order for us to maintain them, a 30% or 20% or whatever our target margin is for that product that we're selling them, we had to kind of right-size the cost. And if they didn't feel they were going to get the value out of it, we accepted that it was time to part ways. So, yeah, that's kind of how do you fire a client? I feel like that could be an entire discussion in itself. I think some people from this row may have some strong feelings on how to do that. So. But is anyone seeing an army of cheap cars appearing in their city streets? So, do you drive one?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet?
I hear it's a hell of a tax write-off, but.
That's what they say?
Yeah, no. We moved to so much remote support just because we were deploying better services that we quit. I mean, there was no need for that. So.
Awesome. Thank you, John. Very, very thank you. That's great. Jim actually is one of our longtime Spice heads, and he actually was one of the original 6 Spice trainers. And so this guy knows his stuff and has made.
I was thinking I was the first one to quit, but I got reminded today David Scammell did.
It's all good. It's all good. He's gone on to bigger and better things, running his own MSP. So he's going to give you guys some insight into turning those single projects into long-term customers.
Can y'all hear me okay? No? I need to put this thing up higher. Hello? Oh, that works real good. All right, cool. We'll put it up here again. That works. All right. Very good. Good afternoon, everybody. How are you? Good. Yeah, normally when I have a group like this, I go around and have everybody introduce themselves. I'm joking. I'm not going to do that. We did that in class. So, anyway, today my topic is turning clients from single projects or break-fix clients into long-term customers. Okay. One misconception I want to make sure that we understand is that break-fix and project, 2 different things. Okay. So projects you never really want to get rid of. It's always a good income. But one of the things that, if I do this here, just obviously a real quick look at revenues dependent upon the break-fix scenario versus budgeting. We kind of show a little graph there to depict the differences. How many people here run or work in a break-fix / project company? Time and materials, don't really do any managed services? Yeah? Okay, well, I kind of like your approach, but it's weird. We do something almost the same. We work on smaller projects to get in there and push in our managed services, but it's good. One of the things about the break-fix that I noticed, because we've been in business now a little over 3 years, and in the first 1.5 years, it was a struggle. Okay, first 2 years, it was a struggle, serious struggle. That the blue graph going up and down did more down than it did up, okay? Because there's no way to budget in a break-fix type environment, so obviously we're looking for reoccurring revenue. That's why we want to convert our clients from break-fix into managed services. And one of the first things we want to do is we need to determine the type of clients that we have and the type of clients that we want to keep. This kind of spurs off of what John was talking about too, okay? So you've got your A clients. These are the cream of the crop. These are the ones that pay, they've got a budget, and they value your service, your opinions, your expertise, and they're there for the long haul, okay? I'm just looking at you because you're sitting right there, Sam. Your B clients, those are the ones that you have to determine where they actually fit, okay? There's going to be occasionally some overlap in paying on time, not paying on time, but it kind of goes back to what John was saying is if it is what was that word you used? A high need and low income?
I need low income.
High need, low income. That's probably your B client. Okay, now your C client, this is really weird. I was in a boot camp where somebody else was going, give me your C clients. Your C clients are easily defined as the people that you can't freaking stand, okay? Usually it's because their money's not coming in on time or their complaints are higher than their revenues is what John was talking about. I'm gonna trip over this. It's gonna be funny too, watch. So we've determined what we're going to keep as far as our client base goes, okay? Okay, again, when we do this, we're going to determine the clients that we're going to keep. All right, so how are we going to manage this? First off, we're going to actually send out a letter to our A and B clients that we're determining that we're going to keep, okay? You've got your list out, send them out a letter. Just tell them about the services that you've got going on and the benefits that they're going to get from that, okay? Focus on the marketing aspect, not the technical dissertations. How many of us go to see a webinar and we get in there, and even though we're technical, we don't quite grasp everything they're talking about because they go a little too deep, except for Scott, he's got it all? Just me? Okay, AJ raised his hand. All right. Now there's 3 of us in the room. Okay. The rest of y'all are full of it. You know it's there. So anyway, don't focus on the technical aspects of it because our end users, our clients are not concerned about the technical side of it. They want to know, is it easy to use from our side, and do we have to do anything to make it work? No, you don't. That's our job, okay? Okay. Know your clients, know what they need. Okay, so we sent out this letter, right? Explaining, you know, we're moving into a new managed service arena. There's also a big talk in the managed service side about flat costs, okay? There's always been, managed service historically has been based on either people or desktops and servers. There's been a couple of different methodologies in there. It's really moving more towards a flat fee for everything. So what you want to do is break down your services, because even in that flat fee, you still got a bunch of different services. You got your managed antivirus, managed online backups, desktop, managed print services, et cetera, et cetera. So you need to break those down and know what those are, okay? Evaluate each of your existing clients, okay? You should know your clients, most likely better than what they know themselves when it comes to an IT perspective, okay? So take and look at what you've got in your services and what that client does not have, and guess what? You have a sales roadmap. Okay? So we can go in there and we can now start to intelligently talk about them and get these things on. Now it's time for a follow-up call to actually begin a conversation and to actually go ahead and convert these clients. Here we go, there's one more here. There we go, follow up and follow through, okay? The clients are going to convert. We'll discuss the new approach and the benefits. This is on a call that we're going to have with them, okay? Make sure that you follow up and follow through on everything that you do with these clients, okay? Just like John, maybe it was in the breakout session earlier. They're talking about make sure that you stay in contact with your clients. You make sure that they're aware of what is going on. Give an ANSI client 2 days, they'll find another provider, okay? So make sure we do the follow through. Okay. All right, again, just in a quick recap, determine who you're going to keep, okay? Go through that list completely, all right? If you've got a long history with these clients, take the whole thing into account, not necessarily just the last 3 to 6 months. Of course, if they haven't paid you in 6 months, just take the last 6 months into account, okay? So, okay. Know your products and services. I'll be honest, I'm just like a lot of other startup companies. We hired an account manager, he's like, so where's our line card? Make sure you get it jotted down, okay? Because obviously it's a lot easier for your salespeople to convey it out. It's also easier for you to convey it out because we have a tendency to have a bunch of technical stuff up here, and then we try to get the sales stuff up here and get it all out, and then we end up back where I was talking about don't go into technical stuff, just focus on the marketing side of it. So I definitely know your products and your services, okay? Take action and follow through, continue to follow through. One of the things that we have learned in some of our marketing strategies and classes that we've gone through is that, for example, an email campaign is not just an email. It should be 5, 6 emails, okay? And you don't always just start on that one particular product. So again, action and follow through. Top-notch products and services make for a happy long-term client, okay? This is going to kind of lead into AJ's here since he'll be focusing on customer service. And anyway, let's see, was there anything else here? I actually had a pretty short speech because originally I was supposed to talk like 4 or 5 minutes and we were having like 9 minutes, now she says 12, so, but it's cool. Yeah, any questions?
How do you generate leads for your business?
It's a good question. We initially started generating leads out of Spiceworks. Then from there, well, I thought, well, heck, the forums work, so other forums, social media, we've actually purchased leads and tried that route as well. Make sure that you have a salesperson that's going to follow through, okay? Because otherwise you waste your money on the leads. Leads are a good way to go, but most of it we get through social media and referrals. So that's where we get most of our clients from. So, any other questions? Yes, sir.
Are you compensating your salespeople on straight commission? Or?
I have tried both. They perform so much better on straight commission. I mean, they really get into it. They get involved in the sale. They want it because they know that's their paycheck.
Yes, there were some other guys in the previous discussion. Pretty much they all said that they work primarily off of roles. They don't really have sales marketing teams at all. And you know, how does that? Before you had sales staff, how did that affect your margins and your prices when you started bringing in sales?
Before we got organized and brought in salespeople, it's really hard to tell you because we weren't that structured. So having salespeople, there's a few advantages. Two right off the top is one, they're selling while you're doing the stuff that you do best, and two, they make you stay on top of your services and products so that you know what you've got, and they've got to know what they've got because they're selling it. So, and they're going to continue to drive that business. Just since we started using salespeople, well, we have a new account manager that we brought on 3 months ago. Just since then, he's already signed 60 grand in contracts. So, and we weren't doing that annually. So that was just through referrals. Okay, he's going out, he's beating the street. He brought some accounts in with him, obviously, but then there's other accounts that we picked up through various leads, whether they were purchase leads or through various forums, referrals, whatever. So Spice Heads are great referrals. They really are. Talk to them, let them know what kind of business you got. You can't be in every part of the forum all the time. Everybody else can head up those areas for you, except for Scott. He's all over the freaking place.
I've got 3 forums myself, so storage, VMware, and desktop virtualization.
Yeah, no, that's one of the things I handed off to my account manager. I'm like, all right, you have to monitor these forums right here in Spiceworks. You have to every day. So I had a salesperson I paid hourly prior to that. He had the same ones. You have to monitor these every day. You come in, you check your email, you check your voicemail, you check Spiceworks, and you move on about the rest of your day. Question back here, yes?
You mentioned earlier your model wasn't to do like a permanent or for printer. How did your mind part change? What do you charge a client for your salespeople if you don't use a permanent?
That's a facade. Okay. In pricing, underneath the covers, it's still based on what they have in their network. Desktop, servers, network devices, printers, vendors, the whole 9 yards. You take all that into account, and you have an internal price that you're going to charge for each of those items. Okay, but you don't necessarily let the client see what that pricing is. That way they get an all-in-one price.
You're doing complete support, including like all their applications.
Everything.
See, we draw the line like Microsoft Stack and like a handful of apps beyond that. So we can have a simple menu, but that you'd have to be custom for your route.
Yeah, so we actually move in and take over the entire IT shop for them. Either that, or we can supplement it a level 2 support if they so want. So
you mentioned the Spiceworks forum. So are you finding that there's a lot of do-it-yourselfer type business owners that are in the Spiceworks forum?
A lot, yeah.
Well, not more so than IT pros. Because IT pros would be your natural client, I would think.
You'd be surprised. I mean, anybody out there can be a client, because we also, I mean, as one of the things I mentioned early on is we want to get rid of break fix, which is time and material, okay, as much as we can, obviously. We want to keep projects, okay. You get a lot of projects out of Spiceworks, a lot of projects.
That's all we get.
Yeah. So, we've picked up a few managed service clients, but pretty much everything out of Spiceworks that we get is project based, yeah. So, but projects help keep the lights on. Any other questions?
You using Spiceworks as your RMM?
In some cases I am, yes.
What other RMMs are involved in your?
GFI Max. Yep. And because we are an MSP, we try to put it all together based on, well, I'll roll back. Everybody starts a company for retirement, okay, not for enjoyment, all right? And to retire, you have to sell it. And in order to sell it, it has to be worth something. So when we did that, one of the things that we did was we went out and we researched what are all these companies that are buying MSPs looking at and looking for when they buy an MSP. They're looking for a completely automated solution from RMM to CRM to billing to ticketing, the whole 9 yards. So the majority of what we use is GFI Max, and it automatically feeds into AutoTask. We have Spiceworks as a supplement that we outsource to for a contract for all of our project work and stuff like that, and our Spiceworks clients. We have, I don't know, 15 or 20 Spiceworks clients that we do project work for on an ongoing basis. So, any other questions?
One last one. This is a 30,000 question.
Oh.
So what do you think the biggest demand is from your customers? What do they want to see the most?
That they don't have to do anything.
They don't have to see you.
Yeah, that they don't have to see me and they don't have to do anything. Now that's a double-edged sword right there. When they don't see you, they're like, you ain't doing anything.
Why am I paying?
Well, no, I really am. So in that regard, because they don't see me, we send them out weekly and monthly reports so that they see what's actually going on. Like, we list out their servers, their services, whatever's going on, and they can see the good, the bad, and the ugly with that.
Is that something that's automated, or is it something you have somebody pull together for them?
It's all automated.
Yeah, that's awesome.
We use Enable for that. It's our platform that we
I didn't like Enable, but yeah.
No, I hate it.
Yeah,
I hate it.
yeah. I thought about
It's
switching.
still better than trying to make Spiceworks work for an RMF, which it's not designed to. So.
Right.
Not yet. They're working on it. It's getting there. It's getting there.
I promised 3 years ago.
Yeah. Well, you know, it happens.
7.
Yeah. Well, as soon as we can configure the remote agent from there, we're that much closer. I think my time is up. That's why she's here. I got to go.
Thank you, Jim. That was awesome. Can I get a round of applause for Jim? All right, we are on to session 3. So it's AJ from Niagara. He's one of the many Niagara folks here on site. And we are going to hear him talk a little bit about service and customer service. I'm going to turn it over to you.
How's everyone doing today? Enjoying Spiceworld? Yeah. Okay.
Not as much as you.
I am the most excited person for Spiceworld. My name is AJ Stringham. I'm a technical support specialist for Niagara. Some of my people are sitting right here in the 3rd row. Scott Ellen Miller, Danielle, the wife of Sam, all of those people are some of the people I work with. Anyway, Art, yeah. So today we're talking about building lasting relationships. It's all about the service. So we really have to first talk about the keys to building successful and lasting relationships. It really boils down to 3 things. First of all, you've got people. The people are the ones who are going to be doing the work. You've got the people who are client-facing, who are going to be the ones interfacing with them. And then you've got the people on the back end, maybe the technicians who aren't talking to the clients each day. You got to have both sides doing their job effectively. The next one is time. You got to take the time, again, on the front and back end in order to be successful. You have the people who work really hard to build a relationship up front, but then you've got to take the time to maintain that relationship, and that's an ongoing process. And then the third one is trust. This is by far the most important thing that goes into building a lasting relationship. If you have the first 2, but you don't have trust, you're not going to get any work, because if a client doesn't have confidence that you can actually do the job successfully or handle your responsibilities, they're not going to give you anything to do. So we really do have to come to a crucial realization, and it's kind of been touched on, and that's if we don't have the people, or we don't have the time, or we don't have the trust especially, you're really out of luck. You don't have any of the 3, because if you don't have one, everything just falls apart. So now we've kind of got the keys down. Let's look into the do's and don'ts of really managing an MSP. Let's talk about the do's first. The first one is you want to be proactive. I thought it was interesting because being proactive really involves not reacting, but rather anticipating. People will often go into, again, going back to the break-fix solution, they'll go into an environment and this is broken, this is broken, this is broken. Okay, let's get it resolved. Being proactive, many times it starts with going into an environment that is broken, but then looking for other solutions to prevent problems ahead of time. Many people will just say, okay, let's get that taken care of and then move on. Being proactive might be saying, okay, we've gotten your VoIP issues fixed, but let's look at your network infrastructure. What's going on there? Maybe we can prevent a problem or a switch that might be older that could be failing. Let's see if we can get that changed out for something before something actually fails. The next one, make their prime your success. Clients often have poor situations. This is when something is broken. So take that poor situation for your client and turn it into something that's going to yield positive results for both you and the client. Think about it this way. A client is having, again, say a switch issue. You come in, you say, well, I know how to fix this. Let's get it resolved. You resolve it, the client now has, their downtime is over, and you've been able to build the business and gain the relationship with the client for yourself. So this is really where you can take a poor situation and turn it into a positive one. And then you want to become that friend and trusted advisor. This is really important because you got to have the client's best interest at heart. For example, many people are resellers or partners with a specific company or for a specific brand. Realizing that that company or brand or solution does not have the be-all, end-all solution, we'll talk about that in a minute, is really important. If you realize that, you're going to understand that even if you might make money if you sell a specific client that product, or if you understand that for 90% of people that product or service works, but for this 10%, and this person falls in this 10%, it doesn't, if you push that, you're just going to make the client upset because it's not going to work for them. You got to make sure that even if it doesn't necessarily result in something that's going to financially benefit you or your company, you got to make sure you put the client's interest first, and that's going to build a lasting relationship. So let's talk about some of the don'ts. First one, don't oversell yourself. That goes back to you don't have the be-all, end-all. Many times, vendors will oversell what they can do. They'll say, or for example, someone comes on Spiceworks, I'm looking for a solution for this situation, for a backup solution or a VoIP situation, whatever it might be, and someone comes on and goes, oh yeah, I can do that, when in essence, maybe their competitor does it much better, and they really don't specialize in that. The really good vendors will say, okay, we can maybe do that. But this competitor over here, they can do it better. It's going to be a better fit for you, and it's going to make your company run smoother. By doing that, you're going to really effectively maybe not gain that client, but the clients and the other people on, say, Spiceworks who are watching that are going to go, you know what? They didn't have the best solution for them, but my situation fits their needs pretty well. And I think I'm going to look at them because they obviously are reputable. So it goes a long ways when you don't oversell yourself because you're not selling yourself or the client up for disappointment. Also, big mistake a lot of MSPs make. They acquire new clients and they don't maintain existing ones. You have to remember, your reputation is on the line. Many people are so focused on, gotta get more clients, gotta get more clients, gotta get more clients. Well, if you have clients, you've already gotten your foot in the door. You've got a certain amount of trust you've established with them. So why not take advantage of that? Again, that goes back to being proactive, saying, you know what, we did this project work for you, but let's see what else we can help you with that can maybe help you in the long run. Turn a project work into a service contract, something that's going to benefit both sides. And when you do that, you really build your own reputation because people are going to see that you're putting them first, and you're not just about gaining more people. You want to really establish a relationship with the people you do work with. And finally, don't forget the human factor. Because all businesses and people require 4 main things. This isn't just true about business, this is true about pretty much every aspect of life. They require availability. Again, this goes back to that key factor of time. If you don't take the time on the front end or keep taking the time, you don't maintain that, then you're not going to be successful. Clients need that availability so that they can say, I'm having a problem. Can I call someone? Or can I shoot someone an email and know they're going to respond? So if you don't have that, you're not going to get very far. Accountability. This is something everyone has a measure of, whether you're the technician or the person in sales or management who's talking to the client. Everyone has a certain amount of accountability, and it really ties in with the responsibility because everyone's going to be held accountable for a certain amount of action. But handling that action in a responsible manner is really what ties in with the other two. Because you might have a certain obligation or duty, and as a result, you need to handle it in a way that's responsible. And finally, reliable. The other 3 don't mean much if you don't have this. Because you could be the best tech in the world, you could have all the time in the world, but if you don't handle things in a reliable and consistently well-done fashion, no one's going to use you. And even your company won't use you. So if you have those 4 things, you really give your business a distinct identity because so many MSPs out there don't have these things, or they lack 1 or 2 or 3, whatever it might be, and as a result, they just fall into that cloning that has been being discussed. So in conclusion, don't live down to a client's expectations. What do we mean by that? Clients bring us in because we have a certain expertise. They understand that they don't know everything about a specific subject. They need our specialty for whatever it might be. So they might have a certain standard that, okay, this is what I've heard about, but not really having a full understanding of the full picture. So if we live down to their expectations in that we say, okay, yeah, we'll meet that, but not really saying, okay, if someone else in my field were to come in and look at this work, what would they think? Then you're going to set the client up for disappointment and failure, and you're really going to put your own reputation in jeopardy. The next one, set a high yet reasonable standard and meet it. Many people in business in general will set a standard that is not really reachable. It's not attainable. And so they'll say, we got to be perfect in every way. While that's great to shoot for, it's not realistic. So set a standard that is a little outside your comfort zone, one that is going to be something you have to push for, but don't make it so high that you're just setting yourself up for failure and disappointment. Also, you want to give your client that warm and fuzzy feeling. The old expression for farmers is, I know I can sleep on a windy night. So you want to make sure that when your client leaves at the end of the day or on a Friday evening and they're done for the weekend, you want to make sure that they have the confidence knowing that they'll be able to come back into work whenever they're in again, and they'll be able to just pick right back up where they're going because they know they've got a good backup solution in place, or that you've got things covered so that they don't have to worry about it. And finally, building relationships is a process that never ends. Realize it's not a 1 day, 1 week, 1 month, 1 year, 10-year thing. It's always going on. Trust is very hard to gain and very easy to lose. So make sure that as you're building relationships, you keep it going. Keep contact with your clients and really make sure that you establish those relationships and keep those relationships going. That's really the biggest key. So, any questions? What's up?
You talk about maintaining service levels. Do you have an internal utilization target, like 70% or 80%, 90%? What's your trigger for maybe acquiring new staff, or for
That's more of a Danielle question. That's nothing I handle. I'm just the technician.
We really look at if we can't provide the customer the service at the level that we expect, and I have to say that my guys, look at who I've got, I expect a very high level of service, and if we can't provide a service within 30 minutes, that means I don't have enough staff to do it.
Okay,
It really is a time line that we fall on.
Any other questions?
How long have you been in MSP?
Niagara has been 14 years. I've been with the company since last November, so it's going to be a year and about a week. I started full-time in June, so I've been for about 5 months.
Niagara, you guys are upstate New York?
We are all over. We have, I'm relocating to Texas, but Scott's relocating to New York to work in Connecticut. We have people in the UK, Australia, California, and a couple other places. So we're all over the world, and we can handle really just about anything.
Other questions?
You going to Austin?
No, Dallas.
No such thing.
Yeah, and that could be where Spiceworks is.
We'd love to come. Awesome. All right. Thanks, guys. Thank you, AJ. Fantastic. I'll take that from you. Perfect. Thank you. Last up, guys, we've got Charlie Brown. He is with Mixtape Marketing here in Austin. He's had many years in the marketing field in a variety of organizations, from working on the agency side to working in big corporate enterprise software, and now is running his own firm with his business partner, who is here in the room somewhere. There's Ben. So these guys are both the co-founders and principals of Mixtape Marketing. So I wanted to bring them in to give you guys kind of a little bit of kind of a different side of the picture from a pure marketing perspective. So check it out. Charlie, the floor is yours. You got 12 minutes on the clock.
Great. Thanks, Nicole. Can y'all hear me? Is this good? So as Nicole said, I am Charlie Brown. Because this is a lightning round, I'm going to ask that you hold the questions about why my parents punished me with the name till after the presentation. We're here to talk today about branding. You can see that from the cassette tapes here. We are Mixtape. We obviously have a passion for music. But we're going to focus on branding because we're kind of brand first guys, and your brand is the foundation of everything. So you don't want to get into your website or doing a video production if you don't have a well-established brand. So we're going to start there and kind of go through the different elements of a good brand. So I want to start with a pop quiz. I have some kind of half logos up here, if you will. I'm willing to bet you can probably get all of them, if not probably 5 of the 6. Jumping ahead, you can see Amazon, Coke, Disney, Wii, Starbucks, Google. All very, very well-established brands known throughout the world. And Coca-Cola has been around since the 1800s and Disney since the 20s. So these guys have a really strong foundation and a very recognizable brand. And so today we wanted to kind of go through the different elements of a brand. And we know that you guys maybe aren't necessarily aspiring to be Coca-Cola, although if you are, that's even better. But in any case, a brand always starts where? With an idea. So Coke had the idea of, carbonated beverages to get out, and Starbucks wanted to take over every corner in the world, and Google, I think, actually wanted to take over the world. So that's kind of their idea. So from there, they have to come up with a name. The name can be, as simple as, Bob's IT Consulting, Bob's, services, whatever. But we also really recommend a lot of folks, and I'm going to go through another kind of detailed example here of one of our clients, to kind of have a unique name that kind of stands out, because you don't know what your growth is. You may start out as a one-man shop, but 5 months from now you may have 4 guys, and they don't want to go around saying that they're not Bob. So from there we get into the logo. The logo, as you saw on the last slide, that's that kind of identifying mark that, maybe it's the sign that goes in front of your office. It's going to go on all your social strategies and kind of live and kind of become your brand, go on your business cards, etc. And then lastly is your kind of USP, or unique selling proposition. And this is that who, what, how, what, kind of all-encompassing statement of what you do, what your services are, what you offer. And this is really your opportunity to where you can say how you differentiate yourself, what makes you unique. We also kind of call this, an elevator pitch, if you will. Imagine if you're stuck on an elevator and you got 1 minute to quickly say who you are. It's kind of what you're gonna get out there. And then, it's also can be a dual purpose of like a boilerplate. If you ever get into doing any PR strategies, things like that, it's that kind of boilerplate that goes at the bottom that kind of is always out there. And then lastly is the tagline. This is kind of an added value thing. Bigger companies, Nike, Just Do It. Budweiser changes their tagline, it seems like every 2 years. It's certainly a nice addition, but it's not a requirement. We actually don't have a tagline. You definitely tend to see it more in the consumer space, consumer products. So I'm going to go through a kind of practical example real quick of a client that came to us with an idea, and that was that they wanted to, they were making cold brewed coffee concentrate with infinite flavors. It's the idea being it was a cold brewed, which if you're coffee drinkers, you kind of know it's kind of the new trend to cold brew your coffee instead of hot brewing it. And so they wanted to get that to the market. They wanted to start bottling it and get it out there. So we kind of met with them, brainstormed, came up. They needed a name. They had nothing. So we came up with the idea of Chameleon Cold Brew. I don't know if any guys have seen them. They're, 3 years ago when they just had an idea, they obviously weren't in the stores. Now they're in Whole Foods, Central Market. I mean, they're rapidly growing. And the idea behind the Chameleon being that because it is a coffee that you kind of flavor yourself, it's going to adapt to its environment. So if you put hazelnut into your coffee, then it's going to obviously kind of adapt to that hazelnut flavor. So then we kind of had to get them a nice logo, and things we had to consider too when we were working on their logo was it's obviously going to be bottled, so we got to make sure it lives well on a bottle, and you got to think about things like, very horizontal logos don't tend to work well with social media. You've seen the space you have to deal with on Facebook, things like that. So not that those logos aren't good, but those are things you have to consider, and that's why a lot of companies you'll see might have even like an alternate mark or something smaller that can serve the purposes of that. And then next, of course, USP, and I'll just quickly read it just to kind of reinforce to us this is kind of almost the most important element of this, who you are. So in these guys' case, it's we craft every ounce of Chameleon cold brew for 16 hours using only 100% organic fair trade Arabica beans and filtered water. Our unique cold brewing process results in a smooth, highly caffeinated, less acidic coffee that can be enjoyed hot or over ice. Add water, dairy, and your favorite flavor to drink it anytime, anyhow, anywhere. How do you flavor your coffee? So that's kind of their boilerplate. That's who they are. And then lastly, these guys did really need a tagline because they are a consumer product and they needed something kind of fun and clever to go along with future marketing efforts. So we came up with the idea of coffee evolved, and it's multiple purpose. It's the evolution of coffee in a sense, this kind of new trend with cold brewing, but also that the coffee evolves, it adapts into whatever flavor is added. And the other thing we considered too is they did have really big goals and aspirations. They wanted to grow. So this logo works really well with a chameleon of being able to have other flavors, other colors, things like that. So once you have your brand established, all the elements, here's just kind of some next steps that you can really amplify your brand. We certainly don't argue that most folks, the clients we do, aren't necessarily doing all of this. Some of them do bits and pieces. But just to kind of go through them, so the paper system, that's your business cards. Have a good, clean business card, one that's that's a modular system so that you can, as you have new employees, make sure they all look and feel the same. Obviously, websites are great. We actually amazingly deal with quite a few folks that seem to think they don't need a website. We tell them, if nothing else, you got to have a landing page or splash page, something up there, just because nowadays the first thing people do when they meet you is go look you up. So, and of course, we're trending towards building a lot of responsive sites now. Before there was the mobile sites versus the non-mobile sites, and responsive kind of just adapts to whatever platform or whatever device you're viewing from. Digital marketing, banners, pay-per-click. A lot of small businesses do a lot of pay-per-click, drive folks through the paid Google program. Collateral, trade shows, swag. I think we probably all have an abundance of swag today. Direct mail, I think Jim mentioned direct mail earlier. It's still a really impactful way to, if nothing else, keep in touch with existing customers, in addition to potentially reach out to new folks. Social media and PR, social is a really growing way to just get your message out there. And we tell folks, even if you have no intentions of getting too active in social, go and establish those, handles, if you will, Twitter, Facebook, et cetera. If you're, Bob's IT Consulting, and tomorrow a guy named Bob opens an IT consulting firm in North Carolina, he may go get that Twitter handle, and then you can't ever have it. So, blogging's a great way. It really helps with SEO. Staying kind of on top of the algorithm changes. Hummingbird released back in, I guess it was September, and Hummingbird was really focused on, for SEO purposes, of very shareable content and things like that, among other things. And then, of course, there's traditional advertising, which that's broadcast print. That's where you're going to see the Cokes and the Starbucks of the world. So lastly, I just wanted to give you a couple of just kind of added value freebies here. Once a good brand is established, just a few things that you should be doing if you're not. One is just kind of have a compiled toolkit of your brand assets, your logo, your USP. This kind of has dual purpose. This is great for if you do have PR efforts, or if you ever work with an advertising or marketing firm, you can kind of hand those off because it's the first thing they're going to ask for. But secondly, when you get into things like these directories and social, you want to be consistent. You want to make sure you're saying the same thing repeatedly, so it's just all in one place. You can access it, update those profiles, and be good to go. Analytics, you probably all have. We were actually, again, kind of shocked at how many folks we meet with that actually don't put analytics on their site. They rely on GoDaddy's or one-on-ones or whoever their hosting provider is. And the beauty of analytics is not only the great information you can get, but that it's portable. If you change providers, it goes with you. You're not going to lose that data. Google Alerts is great, too, just to see who's talking about you. If you're ever written up in a press release, things like that. We get probably 2 alerts a day about us, but unfortunately, they're all about a random DJ that released a mixtape. Apparently, people still make mixtapes. So. But that's okay. We're very on top of the mixtape scene. So. Create branded profiles, so that your directories, your Google Places, showing up on the maps. Yelp, of course, word of mouth and review marketing goes a long ways. And then, of course, social media. And like I said, be consistent with it. If your Twitter handle is, in our case, it's @mixtapeagency. So our Facebook is /mixtapeagency, et cetera. Identify great networking. Like I said, word of mouth is, we get almost all of our business from word of mouth and from friends and friends of friends and past clients, and all referral based. So go to those meetups, join LinkedIn groups. We go to a social media breakfast once a month, which is educational and also a chance for us to meet other folks. And then lastly, kind of going back to like the Google alerts, keep an eye on what's being said. Even if you're not on social, people are talking. So kind of listen in, see what's happening. And I've listed out a few kind of just blogs or sites where you can go and get good information on tech, SEO, social, and marketing. So our kind of strategy is that building this brand, kind of getting your foundation established, is a minimal investment today, and it's going to save you exponentially for tomorrow. And that's all I have for today, and I'm opening it up to questions. And then also, if questions go long, I'll stick around in the back if anyone wants to come harass me or ask about the name. Yeah.
Okay. I was wondering if you, it was great guidance on branding. I was wondering if you have anything on tracking how you acquire a client, so that you can then figure out how to spend your next dollar.
Right. So depending on the marketing efforts or how you're getting out there, so obviously seeing your analytics and kind of seeing where folks are coming from, how engaged is good. We also build a lot of landing pages for folks if we ever do a paid search program. SEO is different because that's kind of that organic and natural traffic. But landing pages, that's one way that we always like to be able to track for a paid search program, or if we ever do a viral video, things like that, where we're sending them to a unique page that's not crawled on their website and kind of track it that way. Unique phone numbers is an option. We have a client that's actually a locksmith. And he has kind of a unique phone number for every kind of different marketing effort we have, and that way we can track that way. Those are kind of two ways, and it can be difficult, like television spots. And again, not saying you guys necessarily need to be on TV, but that's really hard to track. Nowadays you're seeing people put in QR codes, and what's the music one where you can Shazam, Shazam this song, and it takes you to a specific page. So there's things like that, but yeah, it really just depends on the situation and kind of what the effort is, and we usually do our best to figure it out. And with SEO, we do a lot of SEO efforts. We're obviously monitoring traffic and seeing where they're ranking and seeing if terms are increasing and things. I think you had a question too.
Yeah, I was curious why the whole point about taglines being more of a consumer thing. I was kind of...
Well, I didn't want to apply it's only for consumers. It's certainly open to everybody, and we recommend you should have a tagline. It's just one more way to kind of have that short little way of getting your message out there. But it's just one of those...
For a business card, and really that's what lives.
Yeah, exactly. But it's one of those that if there's anything you want to leave off of that list, that would be the one.
What do you recommend your clients for content, when it comes to blogging and all that stuff? Content creation is... Well, I'm not a copywriter, and I'm certainly not a blogger or anything like that, and being in the tech world, how do you get the content or create the content?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and I'll just say the first thing we always tell clients for both blogging and for social media, it makes us less money, but it's best if you are able to do it because you know your business and you know your brand better than we do. That being said, some of our clients maybe aren't the best writers. Some of them don't have the time, which is completely understandable, and so we actually do a lot of the writing. We'll kind of go in and interview them, understand the topics, depending, like the locksmith client. I actually blog every week about locksmithing, and I'm not a locksmith, but it seems to be working, so.
But one quick thing, sorry, the silent partner, to answer your question further too. With the algorithms and the way that things are trending right now, it's really, really important. There's a premium placed on unique and original content.
That's right. Yeah.
Search engines are getting more sophisticated about identifying the true source of the piece of information. The folks that are duplicating or just flatly copying, ripping off and pasting into their pages are actually might be perceived outwardly as providing a value to the clients, but it's actually penalizing their site and continuing to do so. Whether you do it or you have somebody else that does it, it is important to have original content and increasing premium placed on it.
I saw your little asterisk there about Hummingbird. That was pretty,
Well, I figured anyone that understood that would get a chuckle. Yeah, the other thing about Hummingbird is it's, the emphasis is not just on unique content, but shareable and conversational. Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. Very conversational writing, and not just being so salesy and so.
So along that line, I have a tendency to think in my head, the easiest, quickest way for me to post content to the internet would be to go out to the Spiceworks community and write a how-to or a post or whatever. But is that hurting, potentially hurting my traffic if I'm starting there and then maybe even copying it over to my site at some point, or should I do one first, kind of as the originator of the content, or does it matter, or should I just throw out my site altogether and just use the Spiceworks?
Just use their we get enough people calling to hunt me down off of a random post that, it's safe just to post straight to the community. I run my own blog for our lab notes and things like that, and we have a content section where we post original content, but honestly, if you post in the community and you're a subject matter expert, people will hunt you down for work.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And I will say, with the changes that are happening with the project stuff that you guys saw this morning in the keynote, where we are going to expand that out to being really focused on MSP projects as well, that may serve as a great place to have kind of that central information as well. So something to think about as that grows.
Okay, sorry, not to belabor here, but talking hummingbird, so what you're getting at is creating buzz online, conversational, so that people are talking about you, and that's what's going to drive content. What's the formula for that? You may not have EMC equals squared, whatever, but what's the general formula for creating buzz online about your brand and your products?
Yeah, well, that's a tricky question because there isn't really a formula, but it's kind of unique to each account. So for I'll just use the locksmith as an example. We kind of went out and made an editorial calendar, if you will, of a different variety of topics, things that can talk about, and I'll be honest, it's probably not getting read that much, but from an SEO perspective, it is helping drive traffic, and his only goal is to get the phone to ring. I think we help with a lot of strategy for folks for PR or for social, but for the most part, don't do a lot of the actual social implementation. And with those guys, the formula tends to be we sit down, we kind of understand every in and out of their business, and then we kind of build a fun calendar of different things. And, it's okay to be a little controversial, if you will, at times too, with kind of, a blog, or not necessarily controversial, but, go be a little out of the box. You don't have to be so cut and dry, and, guerrilla marketing can go a long ways, doing some fun things. And, like I said, if you ever host a happy hour or things like that, make sure to get your brand on it so that it gets there. And your ultimate goal is you're trying to build brand advocates, right? You're trying to get folks that know your brand and they kind of help sell it for you. So.
Yeah, along with that, we've had events where if you have a compelling event, you have people that are going to take pictures. As long as you brand the event properly, it's just going to show up in the back of people's pictures.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we are actually out of time. So can I get a big round of applause for Charlie? Awesome.